Hey everyone, I just want to make this quick off-the-cuff kind of video, and I'm going to be talking about rosemary oil. Now, yeah, there was that one study that was done long ago where essentially it compared rosemary oil to 2% minoxidil and came to the erroneous conclusion that rosemary oil was about the same, if not more effective than 2% minoxidil. Now, some people, when they go about quoting this study, they often say that rosemary is more effective than minoxidil. They just say that outright. And then people assume that in that study, well, they probably meant minoxidil in general, right? Now, the problem with this sort of study, aside from the fact that it was flawed because it didn't have a control group, was that it didn't take into account the concentrations of sulfur-transferase enzyme in the scalp. Now, we know from previous studies that I don't really care to go in depth in this particular video. You can go watch my other videos on it. But in order for minoxidil to essentially grow hair, it needs to be converted into minoxidil sulfate. And this only happens when it comes into contact with sulfur-transferase in the scalp skin tissue. Now, the presence of sulfur-transferase varies between people. Some people have more of this enzyme, and some people don't have any at all. So, how well you respond to minoxidil is dependent on how much sulfur-transferase enzyme you have in your scalp. And I'm only talking about topical minoxidil here. Even when it comes to 5% topical minoxidil, there is a considerable amount of the population that does not respond to it. And for that reason, they resort to using higher concentrations of topical minoxidil, like 10% and 15%, or use some sort of topical vitamin A like tretinoin or some sort of topical retinoid. In any case, they do these things to increase the sulfur-transferase enzymatic activity in the scalp. Now, when you're going as low as 2% topical minoxidil, do you really think that you're going to get that same response as someone who's taking 5% topical minoxidil? My point is this, right? If we have a population of people that aren't responsive to 5% topical minoxidil, as you go down lower, you're probably going to get more people that aren't responsive to 2% topical minoxidil. So just on that alone, you can't really effectively say how well the 2% topical minoxidil is working relative to the rosemary oil. And this is why it was so disappointing that the rosemary oil study did not have a placebo. But aside from that, I want to talk about something else a bit more, I guess you can say personal. Now, for me, I have a severe allergy. I don't want to say severe because now that I'm older, it's kind of gone away, but I had an allergy to pollen and fruit in general, to the point where if I ate fruit like apples, pineapples, watermelon, any type of fruit, right, I would get this weird allergic reaction, an oral reaction where my gums would swell up, my lips would puff up, and I would get these rashes on my face and on my hands, blisters on my hands. It was kind of crazy. And I want to say that I didn't have this sort of allergy when I was, I would say when I was born up until age 9. I distinctly remember eating those like Granny Smith apples and eating plums, oranges, all these sorts of fruits. But it was in 2010, when I was 10 years old, that I started to get these reactions from fruit. Now, growing up, I was always allergic to pollen, right? But I didn't have that sort of allergy towards fruit. But eventually I developed that allergy towards fruit. And again, it was due to the pollen in the fruit that I somehow became sensitive to. Now, with multiple rounds of allergy shots spanning the course of a decade, I can now tolerate fruit, right? Most fruit I can tolerate. But recently, I was gifted this sort of leave-in hair conditioner, and I regret not looking at the ingredients on it. And what happened was that it had rosemary oil inside of this sort of leave-in hair conditioner. And when I tell you, as soon as I applied that thing to my hair, right, it induced, I want to say, one of the worst like sensations I've ever felt, right? And this isn't supposed, I'm not trying to scare anyone here, but I want to try to tell people this, right? This whole sort of essential oils scheme that's been going on for a while, where people are advertising, oh, use rosemary oil, or use this concentration of rosemary oil with water, or whatever, right? If you have any sort of pollen allergy or fruit allergy or sensitivity towards plants, whatever, right? Any trees, whatever. I would say don't even mess with that, right? Because after I applied this leave-in conditioner to my hair, I immediately was, having this inflamed, like hot to the touch response in my scalp that I'm hoping won't lead to any sort of shedding, because that would be very, very unfortunate, and it would harm my minoxidil experiment that I've been doing. And you guys can go check in the description for that sort of experiment that I'm working on, or look on my channel to see what I'm doing. But want to reiterate to people in the audience, please don't fall for this essential oil scheme. It can cause more harm than good, especially if you have any sort of allergies towards trees, pollen, or whatever. So don't do it, and hopefully this video can help others. And there was this one video that I remember from the past. I'm not sure if you guys know who Dr. Sebi is, but Dr. Sebi is this, I think, natural healer, this person that used to use a bunch of herbs and plants to cure any condition and all conditions, right? That's what he was advertised for. And he made this thing called the follicle rejuvenation serum, some bullshit like that. And there was this guy who used this serum, he put it on his scalp, and he had a severe allergic reaction to the components, the ingredients within that particular serum. And this is a serum that essentially contains plant matter. So this person who was allergic to whatever was in that, whatever plant was inside of this serum, got a severe allergic reaction to the point where his scalp kind of scaled, and it inflamed his entire head, and it caused like an edema of some kind. So that's not advisable. Again, I want to reiterate, please do your research on what allergies you may have. Look at the ingredients always, because inflammatory responses can really harm your hair loss recovery. So again, hopefully I don't have to deal with anything coming up, any sort of big shedding because of this, because it was pretty intense. It immediately got hydrocortisone cream, put it on the scalp, and that seemed to help a lot. Within the next day, it was gone pretty much. And I'm going to go do a scalp biopsy soon to see if there are any signs of high leukocytes or macrophages, which is indicative of inflammatory responses. So hopefully everything turns out okay. But guys, please reconsider using rosemary oil. Anyway, thanks, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out. Wait 1 second. Before this video is over, I want to say Happy New Year, going into 2024. As I'm recording this video, it's 6:42 a.m., December 31st, 2023, and hopefully you guys can stick around with me. That rhymed. That, you see, I always do these things where I just rhyme randomly. It's like a sort of thing of mine, I guess you can say, that I do all the time. I'll just end this video now, so peace out.